This show is brought to you in part by viewers like you who joined a Patreon or become YouTube members. Thank you. And if you could, hit the like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
All right, JP, one of my favorite things to talk about in football, and you're one of my favorite people to talk about this in football with, is the trenches. We are both appreciators of that ugly, right? Everybody else see that ugly and they get, oh no, this ain't the game I love, but I want 300 passing yards. We out here watching Drake May throw for 80 and run for 60, and we was like, this is real ball. This is what we came here for. JP, one of the things I think has become underrated is trying to build a team through the trenches. The Cleveland Browns are attempting to build a team through the trenches right now. When you look at football from a team building kind of perspective, why is it like so important to start there from yours and a lot of people's opinions about team building? Because it feels like for a lot of fans, I would guess, like they hear it so much, it just becomes one of those things you hear, but never one of those things that people actually like take the time to explain, because it's just kind of assumed that everybody understands this. But why is it so important to build that foundation there from the trenches on both sides of the ball, really?
So I'm going to start off with a quote from the great philosopher, Ronnie Coleman. Everybody want to be a bodybuilder. Nobody wants to lift heavy ass weight. That's sort of what it is, building the trenches. Everybody wants to have an offense that can go score a bunch of points and go like run for hundreds of yards and throw for hundreds of yards, but nobody wants to invest in the offensive line that helps you do that. And because the offensive line is sort of the key to all the success, when you think about what NFL offenses can and should be, is the best offenses are able to make their offenses quarterback proof. And I don't say that to say like quarterbacks don't matter. Although if you've probably followed me on social media, you've seen me say quarterbacks don't matter. What I mean by that is saying that making an offense QB proof and helping widen the margin of error for your quarterback, because so much is already on the quarterback's shoulders already, you don't want him to keep thinking that he's got to adjust every protection perfectly or it's going to completely fall apart because you don't have a run game and you can't protect up front. Having that offensive line and being able to build through the offensive line and then being able to build through the defensive line, being able to win on both sides of the line of scrimmage helps open up everything else for you. And especially when we talk about the modern NFL and what NFL teams want to be, because of how much too high we're starting to see in 2020, but how much too high we're getting from NFL defenses. Because the way to punish those defenses, because everybody's seen RPOs at this point. RPOs have kind of, I'm not going to say they've gone out of style, but their effectiveness has been a little bit limited. What you want to do is try and beat them up in the ground game and force them to move a safety into the box. And that's how you're able to attack downfield. You can still attack downfield against too high, but if you want to take those shots, you got to have the offensive line to play. And then on the flip side, because you want to play as much too high as possible on the defensive line, you got to have guys that'll hold up their gaps, not only to help the safeties and help the secondary defenders be able to get into the run fit, but also create plays in the backfield. That's how Seattle won their Super Bowl, because their defensive tackle group kicked everybody's butt. So I think building through the trenches is so, like everybody says, like it's like a blasé term. Like just winners are built through the trenches. But when you look at it from a team building perspective, having a great offensive and defensive line widens the margin for error for everybody else on the team.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you were describing it, one of the things I thought of, and this might be my most nerdy comp of the day, it's kind of like building a computer, right? Like, you know, and how like different programs need different things from the computer, right? Like if you have a quarterback and that's all you have, like it's the Bengals with Joe Burrow, but let's just imagine they don't have the wide receiver. You're asking your quarterback to process a lot of information consistently on every play. And what that does is reduce the margin of error, right? Like we talk about this with quarterbacks all the time. It reduces their margin of error, which means they can't make a mistake they're going to make a mistake. But now that protection they miss, that's going to be 3rd and 14. And now they don't have the wide receiver to dig them out of it, right? What you want to afford your quarterback with a number of things. I don't think we talk about like the amount of things that just afford that quarterback margin of error. Good defense is a huge one because just getting more attempts without having to be down in the game, that's massive when it comes to your ability to win football. Ask Drake May if this is important. It took him to a Super Bowl. Ask Peyton Manning if this is important. It did it twice. Peyton Manning threw like 18 interceptions in the playoffs when he won it with the Colts, right? Having a great defense will give you a wide margin of a better margin of error for winning. Wide receivers, they give you more of a margin of error because you could be wrong but right with a great wide receiver. You can not read it perfectly.
Just put it in the area
and
code.
say, he got open. All right, cool. You know, like that's something especially you want if maybe your quarterback has a difficult time seeing the field and being able to process information quickly. You just want to give him an easy button. Let's give him a tight end that he could throw to and make life easy for you, right? The offensive line, maybe it just gives you the time that you need. Or again, like you mentioned, the margin of error to be like, hey, he fucked up the protection. It's fine. Monroe Freeling or whoever it is there. With Tyron Smith is so good of an athlete that he just slid over, took care of it. Right? Like, it's fine. That's what I think gets missed, right? Because I think people talk about surrounding a quarterback with stuff like you can weaken it. Bernie's a quarterback. That's not gonna like no wide receiver offensive line combination is gonna make somebody who's not good, right? Like you can't force it, but you can make it so that somebody who's good at maybe one or two things at the quarterback position can be allowed to be good at those one or two things and not have all the other things become these pitfalls for them that they can't dig themselves out of. And that's the nuance of the conversation around like building around a quarterback and building a team in general that just gets missed when, you know, most people are doing this online on Twitter with like 140 characters. That took me like 5 minutes to say. Like, I don't even know how long that would have been to tweet, you know?
Yeah, and I think the biggest example is the Philadelphia Eagles. Last season, or a couple seasons ago, when they won the Super Bowl, they had the best offensive line in football and the best running game in football, and it allowed Jalen Hurts to be maximized in the things that he does well and minimize the things that he doesn't do well. This season, because their offensive line lost effectiveness, it grew the minimization of what he does poorly wasn't as small because he had to take on a little bit more. And the maximization of what he does best got smaller because he couldn't do those things without the offensive line. So when you're able to, or have a quarterback that's limited in this scenario, and I think people with quarterbacks, you're not going to get Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson. That's not going to happen. Those guys come around once every 20 years. You're not going to get those guys very often. You could get Jared Goff. Jared Goff's a good player. And Jared Goff being behind that offensive line helps make Jared Goff into what he is. You could get a Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts behind the Eagles offensive line won a Super Bowl. You could get a guy sort of
Sam Darnold.
You could get a guy. Yeah, you can get a Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold just won a Super Bowl behind an offensive line that has a first-round pick at left tackle, first-round pick at left guard, a highly paid right tackle, and an offensive coordinator and a scheme that minimized the effectiveness or minimized the things that Sam Darnold doesn't do great. So if you're going to minimize sort of things that your quarterback does poorly and maximize what he does best, having an offensive line that will merge with that and amplify that, that's the biggest advantage in all of sports.
It's also kind of underrated, the difficulty of building that specific position in this sport, because defensive line, offensive line are kind of like in their own meta. Because I've heard, I think it was Chris Canty talk about it. He's like, everything else is pretty individualized, right? Corners, DBs, like there's some elements of working together, but like very different defined roles. Defensive line and offensive line, it's like basketball. Like you just gotta get 5 guys who can communicate and put a line together. And sometimes you don't know who's gonna be at what, because like different guys might be able to do different things in different lineups, and maybe some guys communicate better next to some people. Like it's there. What are some of the complexities for building an offensive line that make it difficult? Because it's easy to say, hey, we should get a better offensive line, but obviously it's not easy because, everybody don't got a great offensive line, which I hate to use the Patriots as an example again. And they didn't have a particularly great offensive line, right? Like it showed it was the downfall of them towards the end of the year.
So I think when it comes to building the offensive line, it's also about what you want to be offensively. And we look at what the Patriots want to be offensively with Josh McDaniels, a lot of heavy personnel, multiple tight ends. They want to run gap scheme stuff. They want to run at you. And I think when you look at what offensive linemen can and can't do. I think we kind of, like you said, we can't just get five of the biggest guys and go tell them to run outside zone, because what if your left guard doesn't have that great foot speed? That's not gonna work. I think the biggest example of this again is I think it's what the Chiefs were trying to do this season. They tried to merge all their offensive lines, sort of a split zone, inside zone like offense, which meant Joe Thuney was probably going to be on his way out. Joe Thuney goes to an offense that fits in with more outside zone base, and the Bears become one of the best rushing teams in the NFL this season. So I think it goes to fitting what your offensive linemen do well with each other. You're not going to get an inside zone or gap scheme guard to do outside zone stuff because that's not maximizing him. But I do think when it comes to allocation and money allocation, cap allocation, draft pick allocation, I do think there's a philosophy of drafting the tackles and then signing the guards in free agency. Because a lot of good guards going to hit free agency. This is a pretty good interior offensive line class. But drafting a tackle, the best teams in the NFL have tackles that they drafted and signed to long-term deals, because you're just not going to get those guys very often. I mean, look at this free agency class. The best left tackle available is Rasheed Walker, and we thought he was going to get a $20 million deal a year. He hasn't been signed yet. Braden Smith is best right tackle. He just got $10 million a year from the Texans. So I think the philosophy is to draft the tackles and then sign or trade for the guards in free agency.
Yeah, it seems like that's where the league is going as far as like how they're valuing it, and especially with this draft where there's just so many interior guard prospects, a lot of center prospects. Let's talk about the center position because it's gotten paid a lot of money. I'm interested because I don't think we have the same opinion here, but I look at $22 million for Tyler Linderbaum and I'm like, the history of what we've paid centers and like where we typically draft centers, that feels like a bit much for me. But I get why it's important. I get why you could say that. Do you think that, like, how good of a center do you have to be to justify that money? I guess is my question. Because, like, Alex Mack in his prime, one of the best centers in recent NFL history, right? Okay, that makes sense to pay him that much above market. But when does that line get drawn for a center?
With Linderbaum, he got $27 million a year.
What?
That's left tackle money. That's more than what Tyler
left
Smith.
Tackle money. Like that.
Yeah,
that's not like I'm Dan Moore and I can maybe start for you for 2 years money. That's like good. And then how does a player like him not get fifth-year option by his club?
Well, I think the thing with Tyler Linderbaum is I think Tyler Linderbaum is very good. He is not an elite center, and I think he's also very scheme dependent, which is why the Raiders had to overpay a little bit because he's a little bit scheme dependent and he's a little bit I think he's good. I think he's great, not elite, but because he's the best center on the market, he's going to reset the market as a former first round pick. But like if we're looking at how much Linderbaum just got paid, for comparison, the highest paid left tackle when it comes to per year average, the highest paid left tackle is Rashawn Slater at $28.5 million.
Come on.
Tyler Linderbaum is at 27 right now. And if we go over to right tackle, Tristan Wirfs Who should probably be over at left tackle at this point, and over the cap. But Tristan Wirfs is at 28 and a quarter.
Yep.
Tyler Linderbaum is at 27 million per year.
That's crazy.
Like you said, they're not just paying him left tackle money. They're paying him best offensive lineman in football money. So I think the Linderbaum deal is a little bit of an outlier, but I do think the center is becoming, and not becoming, but it still should be seen as so important, because I think with what defenses are trying to do to NFL offenses, they're throwing so many simulated pressures, so many different looks at the offense, where they have guys at the line of scrimmage. They have guys blitzing who you didn't think were blitzing. Guys are dropping you didn't think were dropping. Elite centers help your quarterback out in parsing those out, because the center is like an extension of the quarterback's mind, and vice versa. The quarterback is an extension of the center's mind. The best example I have of this is Frank Ragnow in Detroit. Frank Ragnow helped set the protections for Detroit, so Jared Goff didn't have to worry about that. All he had to worry about was what the defense was showing coverage-wise, pre- and post-snap, and it streamlined his process so he can play faster. Coaches say it all the time. I had a coach tell it to me when I was in high school playing football. Don't think, because if you think, you're slow. I think a lot of teams want their guys to play as fast as possible, which means not thinking as hard or not thinking as much. Streamline the process and make it easy, because, again, football is simple, made complicated. If you can make the complicated simple, your players will be a lot quicker. And having a great center helps make the complicated stuff up front so much simpler.
Yeah, that being said, I would never pay a center $27 million.
$27 million is a lot, like, per year. I would maybe, like, if Creed Humphrey.
I don't think Baltimore gets enough. Like, Creed Humphrey, I think you can make the argument like 25. Like, at that 25, maybe even depending on like where the Chiefs are, maybe the Chiefs are at a place where like they got a bunch of guys on rookie contracts on the offensive line. They can give them 25, 27, 28, right? Like, okay, we can make that justification. But like, how good do you, like, you have to be so incredibly useful. And then the big thing to me is like, what happened with Baltimore to where they said to themselves he wasn't worth the fifth-year option? Because like either one of two things happened. Either they thought his play wasn't going to be able to equip whatever that fifth-year option would have been, which would be what, 16, 17 million? Right? It's not even that much money. So it's like 16, 17 million, which to me is like, why did you draft the center in the first round if your math told you weren't going to be willing to spend $18 million for a year to keep him?
Well, I think when it comes to Linderbaum and the Ravens, I just think he wasn't a good scheme fit for what they initially were trying to do. Like, you can make the argument. He was drafted
right before. Was he? Greg Roman was still there?
I think he was Greg Roman.
No,
I think he was a Greg Roman guy. Which, again, he got drafted in 2022, so he might have been. I think he was with Roman. So obviously, I think he'd be a better fit now with Declan Doyle running the offense in Baltimore. But given that he's more of a fit for an outside zone, and he was going to ask for top of the line record-setting money, I don't think Tyler Linderbaum is a $27 million a year center. I think, again, Creed Humphrey, maybe I go that length for Creed Humphrey, but I do think Linderbaum caught the market at the right time, and good for him.
Hey man, big bag, big. Greg Newsome got the fifth year. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't that early of a pick where it's like it should be prohibitive to give him the fifth year. He was like a late first round pick. Like, you just get the fifth year just because if he's starting, like that's usually how that goes. And Baltimore was just like, nah, we gonna out negotiate this fifth year option. And boy, was that a mistake. But who knows?
They thought they were gonna try and get I thought they were gonna try and get a good deal done with him, but also like, it is what it is.
Also, conspiracy time. Maybe the Ravens are letting Max Crosby sit on the Raiders cap so that they have to back out of that 27 that they just gave Linderbaum, and then they re-enter the market.
They're playing the long game.
They're playing an extremely short game in like the macro sense of it, because nobody will ever work with them again. But
No.
but it's like, is that something Baltimore is doing? I don't think we can not rule it out, because Baltimore has proven themselves to be a little shady in these kind of operations.
The Ravens are the team that reneges in spades.
Yes.
You can't be the one that reneges in spades.
The Ravens are the team nobody wants to partner with. It's like, oh yeah, you need a partner for this spades game. Nah, I'm good. I'll wait. I got the next table.
I'll wait, y'all. Yeah, y'all get somebody else.
I'm gonna be over here. We gonna play Tunk.
What the kids doing over there? They playing.
We gonna play goldfish with the young boys. You know what I mean? Like, that's what we gonna do. But when it comes to the offensive line, I've heard offensive linemen talk about this before, where they're like, if you got 3, you're good. Right? Like, if you got 3, you can hide 2. Do you think that, 1, that's a thing that you could get away with in today's NFL? And 2, if you had to hide 2 positions, what 2 positions are you trying to hide on that offensive line from a team building standpoint?
Ooh, that is a great question. Both questions are great. I think we've sort of seen it play out with the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl. If you have 3 great ones, you can hide 2, because Gray Zabel's great. Abe Lucas is very good. Charles Cross is great. Anthony Bradford's awful. And Jalen Sindell is a first-year starter. So they were able to hide 2 and win the Super Bowl. If I were hiding 2, honestly, I'd want to have the great left tackle, right tackle, center. I think I can hide my guards and insulate my guards a little bit. But
you can just get like physical dudes who, yeah, like maybe they get a couple extra penalties, but like you're like, okay, he'll break one open if he gets his hand on somebody every once in a while. We get a big run.
But I do counter that with saying, I'm countering myself, but I counter that with saying teams are attacking the B gap so much more on defense because of how great the defensive tackle play is in the NFL. I think defensive tackle play is at the best it's ever been in the NFL when it comes to just quality and depth on every team. And because teams are attacking the B gap with all these pressures, all these blitzes, your guard can't be a stiff. Like he has to know what's happening, and he has to be able to execute. So I do think that guards and interior offensive line play is becoming more important because defensive line play and defenses are starting to attack those interior instead of just blitzing off the edge willy-nilly. But if I were trying to hide 2, I would try and hide both my guards instead of trying to hide a tackle or the center, because the center controls so much of what's going on protection-wise.
It's interesting, too, because you could also go right side, left side, and just, like, build up one dominant side of the line and just be like, we'll try to get what we can get with the other side, right? I think that was, like, the early Philly model, like, before they got Maeva. But when they did have Lane, they tried to do that. I think, like, the 2017 Eagles were big on that. No.
Didn't that team have Jason Peters?
They had Jason Peters. Was he still Jason Peters at that point? Was he? He was about 3 years from being chubby Jason Peters on the Chicago Bears, though.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if he was still Jason Peters at that point, but you can do the one side thing. It also depends on like what kind of team you want to be. Because if I want to run the ball, I want some guards that can whip some ass. Like I want some guards that can whip some ass and like one tackle. But like if my right tackle is like a big oaf, nah, you can just down block. We'll just run around you, like pull a tight end or somebody in front and just live with it. I think you get away with.
But then that requires your tight ends to actually be like able to hold up in the pass protection. And I don't know how many 240-pound, 250-pound tight ends are going to be able to like stonewall Tank Lawrence in pass pro.
That is true, but I can control for that because I just won't put those protections in when I'm throwing downfield. I won't. You just got to be careful of how much you use that, right? Because if you do it too much, then they're gonna anticipate it. They're gonna blow shit up. But if you catch them off guard with it, it's like, you got me with the fucking tight end block, and the guy went at my knees. It is what it is. You could kind of. I think you could get away with one shitty tackle. I think you really can in the NFL. As long as that tackle is like the variety of shitty of like, hey, if he gets a hand on you, he could do something. Or I don't know, can it be a weak tackle who has good feet, can stay in front of people, but just like does have no play strength? Or
so are we talking like
would you rather
our three
have,
that we get? Are our three that we get like best of the best, and then the two that we don't have are league average?
You get an all-pro and 2 Pro Bowlers. The way that we used to value Pro Bowlers.
And 2 Pro Bowlers.
Yes.
And then the two that we don't get, are they like replacement level or are they like just average?
One average, one ass. Like just one guy who's just like, hey, hope it doesn't come down to him.
Let me get an average guard and then a really bad guard, and I can just have my center help. I'm just gonna have him help every single time.
If I have an athletic quarterback, I might just be like, nah, let that tackle be chitty, because like every once in a while, that him fucking up is gonna turn into a tremendous rush lane if he's athletic enough. I've seen it with Lamar.
That's a really good point, because all quarterbacks want you step up into the pocket. Mm-hmm. So if you have like the Great Wall as your center guard, and just let the tackles like run guys around the hoop, quarterback steps up, he's got a clean pocket.
Hey, look, Pat Mahomes has made people money doing this. Who's the one dude kept jumping off sides all year? The right tackle for the Chiefs?
Jawan Taylor.
Yeah, Jawan Taylor. Made a bunch of money off Pat just being able to, you fucked up, it's cool.
That got me thinking now. Maybe I do.
You just want your quarterback to be able to see it. Like if he can see it, he can move around it.
Maybe we do left tackle, center, and then maybe left guard and just go one side.
Mm-hmm.
And if we have like an average right tackle, I can have my center help with the right guard, but nobody's gonna get through.
It's gonna be counter all day.
Oh yeah, power and counter
all day. Hey,
that's all we need.
Yeah, I hope that left guard is amazing, because you're gonna be moving a lot. Okay?
We're moving people.
Like,
we're moving furniture.
Yeah, it's the Penny Sewell model, right? Like you just move them. But it is interesting. Do you think there's room for evolvement with how we do the offensive line? Because it seems like we got to a place around like the 70s, and that's where offensive line like culture was set. You don't rotate these guys. You don't shift them out. They just play the whole game, and that's how we do it. Do you think that there's going to be any kind of like evolution to how we think about the guard position in relation to other spots, where it's like, it used to be like that with running backs, where you don't take them out the game no matter what, and now it's like it's fairly commonplace. Like, do you see anything like that changing, and do you think there would be a benefit to there being a little bit of a difference there with how we think about the offensive line?
In this example, I don't think so, because with the offensive line, communication is so important between all 5. When you talk about offensive line play, the best thing, especially in pass protection, is everybody has to stay on the same level. Everybody's at the same depth, and you have to work with the guy next to you so much, especially when the defense is using so many stunts and pass rush games as the modern NFL defense is now. I don't think you're going to see guys like rotating in at tackle or rotating in at guard, because that's an obvious tell. Like, hey, we're rotating in the run blocking guard. They're going to run the football, or they're rotating in the tackle that can move. They're going to try and get that guy in space. But I do think, because football is constantly evolving, because the thoughts of football are constantly changing, football is a cyclical sport. It's gonna have seasons where like things come in and out of play, in and out of vogue. So I do think that there is gonna be some change when it comes to how we value each position, because the defense is starting to value interior defensive line play much more, which in counter and in the offense's perspective means they're going to have to start valuing interior offensive linemen more because somebody's got to block those defensive tackles.
I do wonder, this is my one kind of wild card theory about the NFL, is because you're seeing this with the defensive line where like Miles plays in shifts, kind of like how basketball, they rotate guys in and out, but it's really you play with this lineup and then 7 minutes left, we switch back to the starters. I do wonder if because the strain and the load is going to be so much as these defensive tackles and these edges just get more and more athletic, it becomes more important to just try to keep some of these guys fresh at the end of the game, because I feel like that the war of attrition be whipping these offensive linemen's ass at the end of these games. Like Myles Garrett broke the sack record with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. It's not a coincidence, right? Like you only do that shit all game for so long when Myles Garrett's out there getting a breather. I do wonder, it's like there's the element that you said of communication. I wonder if they just consistently make it. It's like, all right, we get to the fourth quarter, this situation will rotate in shift B of the offensive line. Maybe not a full 5-person switch out, but maybe there's like multiple shifts that they go through with the offensive line during the course of a game so that they could be fresher at the end of these games. Because like it is a tactical disadvantage when you think about it. Like, Miles don't got to play 1,000 snaps a year. Like Miles can be fresh in the fourth quarter. And the way that we structure the offensive line, that's not really possible. And I wonder if at some point they're like, we gotta get these guys rested in some way, shape, or form, or else it's just gonna keep killing us. Because now the defensive line has like 4 or 5 guys on each team that could just freak athletes. They could just keep running at you. It's like it's gonna be too much at some point. So I do wonder if that happens. I don't think it's gonna take somebody with some balls to do it.
It's going to take a head coach with nothing to lose.
Because the criticism you're going to get, not just from the media, from the locker room, is you got to be right about this.
You cannot mess up with that offensive line shift because, again, you're protecting what is in the NFL your most valuable asset, which is the quarterback. You don't want to be the head coach that took out the left tackle and gets the quarterback killed because you wanted to sub guys in. You don't want to be that head coach.
You're one fuck up away from getting fired, right? Like because of that whole thing. It's like you watch The Wire?
Yeah.
It's like Bunny Coven's Amsterdam. I actually think it's a good idea. But boy, one thing go wrong, everybody gone. It is an admirable idea, but you are trying to do something that is going to shake the foundation of like how this works. And usually when you try to do stuff like that, you can't fuck up or else you end up Hugh Jackson,
Yeah. It's like that. There was a coach a few years ago. I think he was a D3 coach. He would never punt. Like he legitimately never punted in a game. And it would lead to some good wins. It leads to some really bad losses. But that guy was out of coaching in a couple of years because that variance is way too high. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's going to take somebody with some balls, but because of how much money is involved and how much money is at stake when it comes to protecting the quarterback and protecting the most valuable asset on the team, I just don't think we're going to see a lot of rotation shifts. And I also think we're not going to see a lot of rotations or a lot of shifts because the gap between your worst starter and your best backup is a lot higher than the gap between the defensive ends or the edges' worst starter and best backup.
Somebody's going to definitely have to die crawling for somebody to end up running with that concept. Like that is absolutely what's going to have to happen. And then it's like, I think you can't just do that and be okay. You have to be like willing to be kind of crazy, right? Like you're going to tell Darnell Washington he's playing guard. You got to just be, if you're going to do that, You gotta have the boss be able to like, all right, man, this whole thing, we rethinking it differently. We just gonna
Like,
go
if
about
this doesn't work, both of us are going down.
Yeah, like, hey, man, who wants to play fullback? You know, like
We will be legends, either famous or infamous, but somehow we're gonna go down in football history.
we are either gonna have something. We're gonna have something named about us in football lore, one way or the
Yes.
other. Either it will
It's
be
like
something.
that. It's like that. The fake punt that the Colts ran against the Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's either gonna go great or somebody's getting fired.
Yep, there's no in between. There's absolutely no. Either you are a genius and the greatest coach to have ever lived, or you're that idiot that decided that I'm gonna run this fake punt with nobody near the ball. like imagine the guy who did the fumble Rooski, you know, or when you're Rich Rodriguez and you're like, we're gonna do this thing that I learned when my running back fumbled in practice. We're gonna call it read option.
It's like when Boise State ran the Statue of Liberty against Oklahoma. Like, we're either going to be legends or all of us are going down. Like, everybody here is never touching a football again.
Yeah, you will never be able to coach.
No.
If you get that wrong. Somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to die crawling. Nobody wants to die crawling. Like, I wonder how long we will do this. For like people would just be like, nope, not gonna be me, not gonna be me. Miles
We need
Garrett
somebody.
destroy
We need
you in the
somebody
fourth
with
quarter.
nothing to lose. And the problem is, we need somebody with nothing to lose.
Dog, it's gonna be the Bengals. Have you seen what's in this division? Just
I was
attacking
gonna
Joe
say,
Burrow.
why not the Browns? Y'all don't got nothing to lose.
Nah, we can't. We got enough on our plate, man.
Y'all gonna be bad anyway. Might as well.
See, look, JP, this is why we mercilessly troll you during the season when the Jaguars do stuff. And look, it's bold of you to go this route, JP, because you know for a fact that the Jaguars are fixing to let you down this season.
Oh, I know.
They're fixing to let you down something bad. Okay.
They've let me down before. That's not gonna hurt me at this point.
Okay. Nah, they gonna hurt you.
I've been let down by this team so many times.
You gonna have that Baker Mayfield 2022 where we like, hey man, I think he put it together. And then he throwing 4 interceptions in the first half of a game on Christmas.
But see, Trevor Lawrence already did that, and we won that game.
Nah, Travis Hunter drops the pass to get you into you the lead.
We already got that done. We already got that out the way. Our drops, we got that done.
Look,
we already ironed those out.
JP, you'll be tweeting something absurd about what you're willing to do off the Magic Kingdom by the end of this season.
Oh, yeah. I absolutely know. I will. Just wait for that I will 5-star frog splash off the Epcot ball. It's going to be around like week 7.
I will 5-star frog splash into Tomorrowland. But that is our conversation about team building. We got more, JP. Make sure you stay tuned.